was an amazing turnout. My awesome little AI created astronaut here. Okay. This is a bonus picture I found the other day. Hides up picture of the eclipse done by Sebastian. Just a random space station. I followed the post of that and like a hash it as well. Okay, finally, this Saturday, I'm looking forward to this. I don't know how long. I love Halloween, which can't tell right now because I'm not spooky at all like I usually am through this entire month. But if you want to go, hope you do, because we're serving pizza, we have candy, we're bringing games, all sorts of stuff. So the RSVP form, just to make sure we have enough food. Thanks for everything. So if you're interested, do that. The link is also in the group channel. Baby rocket competition.
All right, so we come up with our baby rock competition. We're pretty finalized on this. So we're looking at November 4th, noon, Clinton Drill Field. You can see it out through the window there. We'd like everybody who's interested to scan the QR code and fill out the form by October 25th. So it'll be from now to make sure we have good attendance for that. You know, if people are going to be there. We're looking at teams or individuals. The teams are maximum 4 people. We're going to cap the budget at $75 per team. That's 3 packs. But what we're going to be doing is we're looking at the height of the rocket divided by the amount of money you spend on it. So you can find a way to not spend a lot of money because that rocket is high. Might actually win a prize and a prize for teachers to the most creative rocket, and then teacher for the best rocket max height costs. And then we're also looking to give out team size candy bars for people to go above a certain height. We'll announce later. Maybe then on top I also process.
My turn. So that's me. I guess I can talk a little bit about this photo. This photo was taken in November last year. That was actually my 3rd parabolic flight. I've been really lucky to be part of multiple parabolic flights, always in Europe. And the first couple of times were, but like I said, the very first time, I was still an undergrad in Spain. I'm originally from Spain. And the European Space Agency had this competition for students. So they had this whole like parabolic flight campaigns used for students. So we were like a bunch of students going to the music project. And, you know, I now thinking back, it's like, I don't even know how they did this. So we're like a bunch of students with no supervision, just doing all these things. And I think actually they had an issue at some point and stopped the campaigns, but that was after I was there. That was 2005. Then I flew another time in 2014, helping someone else. And I was just like, because I was there, I knew somebody, I was involved in some of the research a little bit, but it was kind of like an opportunistic way to fly. That was 2014. And this one was last year in November. And again, this was another opportunistic thing. I was like traveling in Europe and my friend was doing these projects about organoids that are going to space. And I just happened to be there. So she was able to get me in the flights. That was pretty cool. And this was a great, you know, it had been a while I hadn't flown. So it was great for my last flight, who was this summer. And this summer, I have a bunch of pictures to show you. This was the very first time I flew being a investigator, like a PI, a principal investigator, like with my own projects, which was a very different experience from like, oh, I'm just here hanging out, and then, you know, sure, I have to push this button, right? Is this one the one that I have to push, right? So it was a totally different experience. And I'll show you a bunch of pictures. I try to document everything to do this sort of presentation. So I've been really lucky to be able to fly in some of these parabolic flights. Always in Europe, though. I think in the US, it's becoming a little bit more difficult to fly. The company that was doing these things, no one knows what's happening with the company. I think they had some issues and then recertification and things like that. So I don't think they are out of business. They are still on there. So I'm hopeful this will resume a little bit, but it has becoming a little bit harder too. Anyway, kind of gave up part of my presentation already. Let's see if I can get rid of this. Yeah. This is starting this. Okay. So all right, I put together a presentation really to give you a sense of where I come from, what my path has been to come here. And then show you a little bit, this is the research that I do without going into any really specifics of anything, and hoping that this is more like a conversation with you guys. So please feel free to stop me, ask questions. Any question is valid. There is no stupid questions, and we have all been in your shoes. And I want to do this. I don't even know where to start. Please do. You can always approach me either today or at any other time. Again, there is no stupid questions, and sometimes you're shy. It's like, oh, I should be looking. I should know this, but I don't know. But I'm not going to ask it because it's not stupid. And I kind of put this title for another presentation, but I thought it was great because I'll show you my travel experience with my lab and my students, and that very different feeling from the previous travel campaigns. And we kind of went to space, like not really, but we experienced true microgravity and true particle gravity. But just to start, how did I end up here? And the point of no return for me was this mini series that you guys have found very young for this, but aired in '98. So that was my high school year, like the very last year of high school. And this mini series came out, and this is about how humanity got to the moon. So very American centric, right? But it was great. It was this, all the Apollo program and all that, how we got flown, and it was so exciting. And to the point, like this is, sort of said, okay, this is what I want to be doing. And at the time we didn't have Netflix or anything. This was like on Saturdays at 7, right? You needed to be on there on Saturdays at 7, and don't go to the bathroom because you miss it, right? So really, that was me watching this thing when I was in high school, just deciding what I wanted to do. I definitely wanted to go to do an engineering, but I wasn't sure where to go, and this was like I wanted to do this. So I wanted to be this guy. Have you seen these miniseries? Yeah, isn't that really cool? If you haven't, and you presumably are excited about these things because you're here. So I would really, really recommend this. I think it's pretty good. And for me, it was that inspiring thing that kind of really helped me choose my path. So I want to be that guy. I want to be NASA flight director. And for those of you who are international, I know there are a couple here at least. NASA, for 17-year-olds in Europe, is this crazy thing, unattainable, that I would never, it's like it's my dream, but I'm so removed from that dream, and I would never get there, right? It's just this dream, and you guys can make it too, right? So anyway, like it's important for you guys to. And then, you're a good example. You were saying, this is what I want to do. You literally give me a title of a job in a specific company, right? So that's great. Like, go for it. That's kind of what I do too. I just wanted to do this. So I chose to go to aerospace engineering, and at the time we didn't have even like an aerospace focus. It was this aeronautical engineering. There was just one place in Spain that we do this. It was in Madrid when I lived, so it wasn't too bad. But it was a lot of airplanes and engines, things like that. We had a little bit of space on the side, like the 2 or 3 like electives kind of thing. So I was just taking all those electives and trying to get myself into all these activities. One of them is this parabolic flight that I was mentioning when I was a student. This is the the very first time that I flew in 2005, this is me in undergrad, just planning my little experiment. Well, it was a big experiment. It was about fluids and sloshing effects and things like that. So I was very proactive to get into some of these things as much as I could. So after that, I spent a year in France, which was really beneficial. Like I didn't hear abroad. Totally recommend just go somewhere. It doesn't matter where. Like, just go. So that was really great. I didn't know any French. It was really fun. Well, no, it wasn't very fun at the beginning, but I made it through. And once I finished my undergrad, I actually worked for Diaz-Artiles 5 years. So I didn't go straight to do PhD. I went to Arianespace, which is this company that launches the European rockets. If you guys have heard Ariane rockets, right? So I worked on Ariane 5 for 5 years. This is one of those awesome pictures that they take every campaign. I participated in 30 launches, and Arianespace is based in Paris, but I was going to ask you, do you know where the launch pad is? Well, it's in French Guiana. You know where that is?
That's near Brazil.
Here you go. And is it an island?
No.
No, everyone thinks it's not. So it's not. It's actually mainland. It's at the north of South America. And one of the countries, neighbor countries, is Brazil. So I lived there for 4 years. At the beginning, they put you in Paris. I was traveling a lot for launch campaigns, especially during the training. They don't let you touch anything for a year. You just follow someone else with your procedure. And it's me doing some procedures in mission control, me very, very young. So that's what the mission control looked like. And then, a couple of pictures of what French Guiana looks like. It's really raw place, very green, and nothing to do besides just going on the river, the beaches, and things like that. So, a little bit out of my comfort zone for like someone from Madrid, a city girl, and all that. So I loved it. But interesting experience. It was amazing. This picture captures a little bit what the launch complex looks like. You might be maybe a little bit more familiar with the NASA way of doing things. So this is pretty similar. There are 3 buildings that the rocket go through. The first one over here is called, they use French over there, but I guess the translation to it will be something like integration of the launcher happens here. The one?
One of my faculty members, he knows French. He's from France. One of my professors.
Yeah. So we had to. That's another thing of the European. It's supposed to be European, so they were like all these people from different nationalities, but the French are very French. So we all speak French in France, and all the countdowns and everything, radio, it's all in French. Which I thought it was interesting, but I guess my French got so this is the integration building, then the rocket goes here, and this is the equivalent to the Tempe building at NASA. So here you will do the payload, and then close it and do the final operations. And then the day before the launch, typically 24 hours before, you start the transfer to the launch area, which is this one. And then typically the next day is when the launch. So, and you see what it looks like. It's pretty cool. And then this picture, I'd like to show it because it's a really good picture. We wanted to get the launch in the back during the transfer. But the moment you disconnect here, you're not going to stop in the middle, just take a picture. So we were all waiting, like really, really hot, humid weather for hours to wait for the launch, to let the launchers to just be in the right position behind us to take this like awesome picture. So some one of those here. So anyway, that was a great experience. And at the very first time I saw a launch one, like my thought was, this is amazing. This is the best job in the world. how happy I'd be so lucky to just land this job, like right after school. I'm never gonna change my job. This is the best thing of the best, right? So that was my mindset back then. And I'm like kind of, close enough doing what I thought I wanted to do, right? Within this time, more or less. But then, we all evolve and change what we want to do, learn new things, get new challenges, you want to pursue new challenges, things like that. And if what happens to me after 5 years working in operations, it became a little bit repetitive and, without saying anything bad about this job, it was amazing, but we were in charge of rocket operations. So me in particular, I was mostly looking to the upper stage of Ariane 5. There used to be 2 types of upper stage, cryogenic and storable. So at least we had that, okay, today is cryogenic, tomorrow is storable. So we had a couple of things to do, but it was over and over and over the same operations. No. I wasn't even dealing with the payloads, and the payloads were different. Yeah. But it became a little bit, operations, these procedures, go through it. So just, at some point I just wanted a little bit more challenge, a little bit more, different.
See some more innovation and creativity on the front of like the rockets you were managing, because like this Ariane 5 is just like the same rocket over and over, same rocket part over and over and over.
I think it was more the whole human, right? Like Ariane 5 doesn't have humans, we don't have the capability in Europe to
It's not human space.
It's the whole astronaut thing. It's what the whole passion that I had with let's go to the moon, let's that human space flight is what was missing. So eventually I decided to apply for PhD programs here in the States to kind of pursue that route, and that's the research that I took today. It's all about humans. But I wanted to make clear, like my background is traditional aerospace, like as many of you, I think, are aerospace. Doesn't mean you cannot do something else, right? Like what I do now is very different from all those equations, all those things that I used to know. We'll go and ask those step again, but I might. I'll figure it out. I know how to do it, right? But I just don't use it. So I guess I need to include it. So just to summarize a little bit my path here, I'm from Madrid in Spain. Once I finished, I went to Brescia, which is here. So that's where I lived 5 years. And then when I said I was applying to programs in the States, and I was really lucky to go into MIT. In MIT, there's this lab which is within aerospace engineering that also deals kind of like the lab that I have right now. It's like aerospace engineering, but also reaching out and dealing with human performance, physiology, all these type of questions that I'm interested now. And it's a little bit outside your comfort zone, but your home is still engineering. And that was the right place for me. Might not be for you, but I say that as opposed to maybe all these other programs that I was looking for also to apply to, that it was more like based in a med school, right? Or something. Which maybe they do the same thing, but you feel a little bit of a foreigner. Like I'm not a mad people, like I'm still an engineer, right? So that's where I feel comfortable. And then you guys have to find what you feel. Maybe it doesn't work for you, but for me it worked really, really well. It was the right place for me to be. So I got my PhD there, looking into some artificial gravity stuff, and I work on spacesuits and things like that. And I'll touch later. And then I went to Cornell, because my husband had a position there. My husband now he's a professor here too, but I think it's important to mention this and the whole dual career opportunity. Dual career. So he also went to MIT. He was ahead of me in terms of years. He actually also worked in Brescia. That's a whole love life, but yeah, just to say, well, he got a professorship in here, so when I finished MIT, I moved to Cornell. And I didn't have a tenure track position there, but I was fine, and I wasn't necessarily wanting to be professor myself, I just wanted to be done and move with my husband. So I went there, I spent there 3 years, and during those 3 years, I was still passionate about what I was doing and submitting all these grants and proposals, but I was like, I don't have the funds, right? Because nobody give me a startup, I'm not on tenure track. So slowly it just started to get to me. It's like, oh, maybe I should apply for this because I'm already doing the job without money as students and everything, right? So I kind of like got a little bit into that. But I wasn't necessarily looking to move, like husband had a good position there. I didn't really apply to places. I just went to this NASA meeting that happens every year, related to all the research that I do. And I heard Bonnie Dunbar, who some of you I know, she's a professor at the department. And she was saying, we are hiring somebody in bioastronautics. If you know somebody, let me know. And I was just sitting in the room. Oh, there aren't that many students in the field. So I kind of like shoot her an email and, you know, fast forward, I ended up in the offer, right? Like it was like very fast and they were very excited. And it was like, oh, I do have a husband, right? He's a professor. Like I'm not moving without him. So yeah. And then the United States, especially like at least the universities are actually good at these things and they asked me for his CV, and of course, you know, he was actually the star. Like he was already a professor to grade, so it was like no brainer. I guess if you ask me from the department to say, oh yeah, that's great, we'll do both. Like we'll send you guys both offers. So we thought about it, and it was a hard decision. He was doing great there. It was a really bad year for him. I don't know if you know how the whole contract works and all that. Anyway, we decided to come and, you know, that was him making the effort and before it was me making the effort, kind of like following him. So I don't know. I mean, that's my story, right? And I'm also not trying to give you any advice or anything, but this is a real thing. And you guys are going to have this problem at some point, most likely, maybe not all, but this is the reality of things. And sometimes, you know, you need to do sacrifices here, and then someone else has sacrifices there. And you know, it works out for us as long as we are together. We're pretty accommodating people, so we're fine. But you know, I like to share the story with personal learning. You guys had me on about stuff.
Don't stress too much about all that.
Yeah. How well? I mean, maybe some, you know, high school sweethearts go to different schools and things like that, and that things happen,
Move
right?
over there because you don't want
Yeah. Anyway, but it's a real thing that happens a lot in academia, and I think this is also why academia is pretty accommodating if they can to these things, because otherwise they won't get it. They won't recruit anyone. So all right, so now we are switching gears a little bit, and I want to tell you a little bit what I'm interested about from the research perspective. If you look at this figure in the middle, you can see a response of a particular, a specific variable, or I guess any variable related to human performance. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to say average, say some things, you guys can nice things, but it can be anything, any variable in human performance. And one of the questions that I'm interested about is to see how that variable is going to change when we change gravity. Or put it the other way around, like what's the gravitational effects on human performance, right? These are big words. But that's pretty much what it is. So if we look at this particular variable, it doesn't matter, heart rate. And look at this point. This is the heart rate that we get at 1G. This is Earth. So we know pretty well what that variable is gonna look like, because we have been on Earth for a long time and we understand this thing. Then what happens if we go to 0G, which is this point over here? So let's say heart rate goes down, or whatever variable goes down in here, and we kind of know more or less what that variable looks like, because we have been doing research in space for a little bit. Maybe we don't know. We don't know every single thing about human performance that we want to know. But we know a little bit about a lot of things. What happens in between?
Well, the heart rate gets a lot slower. I mean, you're saying this is the heart rate?
I'm just making something up. It doesn't matter.
Okay, well, basically, you get some progressive muscle atrophy if you don't exercise a lot more frequently, because if you're not using your muscles, you're floating around. But I guess that's why you put partial gravity here. It's not very likely we'll be able to get a full G on our space stations at first.
You are getting like way too specific. So let's just back up a little bit. And generally, I guess where I was going, everything you said is true, by the way. But generally we don't know what is the response of that human performance, big human performance between 0G and 1G. We have very, very few data points on that. The reason why is also very hard to recreate some of these environments too. But we don't know if this line is going to be linear. It's going to be looking like the red line. It's going to be looking like the green line. We have no idea, and this is really important to know for a couple of reasons. First, we can think about Mars gravity, right? We want to know what's going to happen in Mars gravity or lunar gravity or any other variable, right? We want to know, so we are prepared for it. But also, the shape of that graph is going to tell you a lot about thresholds that maybe we don't want to cross. So, for example, if this response heart rate, let's just stay with that rate, it looks like the green line. Right? If I am at Mars, my performance is very pretty close to 1G, right? So I'm probably going to be fine. Maybe I don't need many countermeasures or things. However, if it looks like the red line, I might be in big trouble. Like to the point that maybe people die. Like again, like it depends what we're talking about. But knowing what the shape is tells you about those thresholds that you may or may not want to cross, right?
So you want to be flying 6 months to Mars on the level.
Right. So, well, but I mean, it's tricky because if you're flying 6 months to Mars with microgravity, you are still here. But you're adding another variable, which is time, which also was the point that I want to make. Like these relationships may evolve over time. Maybe these relationships look like this at time now, like 1 minute in microgravity or whatever gravity you are, but if you are in that particular gravity level for a year, maybe this graph's gonna look something different. So there is a third dimension that is time that is not recreated in here, but it's also part of the questions that I want to answer. So my entire, not my entire, but a lot of my research projects kind of feel within this framework. Like what are these relationships between partial gravity levels or 0G and 1G, or even 2Gs, right? You can expand this a little more. And this is what we call like gravitational dose response curves. So the first step is to know what they look like. And the second step is like, designing measures and all that. This is going to inform what you can do about it, or if you even need to do something. So some of my research projects are very related to the cardiovascular system. That's a system that I'm very interested in. I do a lot of things with that. This is centrifuge that was at MIT. I did my PhD looking into centrifugation and exercise together and looking at cardiovascular variables with that. These are pictures from here. So these are things that we have here on campus. We can use a tilt table to change or modify gravitational levels in the head to toe direction. If I'm here, I'm subjected to 1G. If I'm supine, I'm subjected to 0G. in this direction, right? Sure, you still have everything in this direction, but let's assume we can ignore that. That's kind of like the tilt of that we use to study fluid shifts on Earth. We also have a device called lower body negative pressure. Have you heard about it before? It's basically a box where you can get negative pressure. I was going to say vacuum. We don't get to that. You can get negative pressure, and so you're going to put your legs inside up to here, and then you start pumping the pressure out, and that is going to cause your fluids to go back up to your legs. So it's kind of another way to simulate gravitational stress. And if I want to be more precise, it's another way to simulate fluid shifts. What you're actually doing is moving your fluids down, which is what gravity does to me right now. I'm upright and most of my blood is down there.
Is that what happens when you're sitting on a chair for a long time, and then you make the mistake of falling asleep on that chair? You wake up and you have like the worst cramps ever.
I'm not sure it's the same thing, but you're welcome to come to the lab and visit this. I mean, we can
Simulate that
and
whole
you
scenario.
can stay there. And then we also have a short radius centrifuge. This is a 6-meter diameter centrifuge that is at the clinical facility, and we are still putting it back together. This is an old NASA centrifuge, but NASA didn't want it anymore. Long story, they did to us, and we have to get it back together. So it's not working yet, but we have these 3 different instrumentations to study altered gravity environments. All of them have pros and all of them has cons, right? And none of them are actually true partial gravity or true microgravity. We can learn a lot. And I'll talk to you about a project that I'm doing. And then here, we also have this parabolic flight that we just recently did, as I mentioned. In this case, we were looking more at the sensory motor system, and in particular, bimodal coordination. So just looking into how people coordinate the 2 arms, and then see changes in gravity actually causes changes in coordination performance. And we have a bunch of metrics that did. And then finally, these other projects, it's more related to EVA, extravehicular activity, just walking around at a different gravitational level. So we have built an offload system that Callie has been working on a lot too. And with the offload system, we can basically get you to have your weight, 0.25 your weight, and then we'll ask you to walk at different speeds, certain different inclines. So we are trying to really map, these kind of curves to try to recreate the dose response curves for walking. And in particular, in this case, we're looking at metabolic cost of how your metabolic demands is going to change depending on speed, slope, all those things. But the main variable that we're interested in is gravity, right? So we're using all those. I don't want to spend too much time on this because we already talked a little bit about it, and I want to show you some pictures from the parabolic flight. But just very quickly, this is one of the NASA projects that I have in the lab. And the idea, or I guess the motivation for it, is to really understand these fluid shifts, these gravitational dose response curves of several cardiovascular and ocular parameters. And the reason, or I guess 3 of the main reasons we were interested in this, is this idea of first orthostatic intolerance. So this is when your cardiovascular system, after being in space for a long time, you're not dealing with gravity anymore. You don't have to fight gravity to get blood to your parts, and your system adapts to 0G. It's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing that you are adapting to your environment. The problem is when these people come back to Earth, all of a sudden, like 1G is a lot, and your body can't. And some people pass out. So that's orthostatic intolerance. Spaceflight associated neuroocular syndrome this is a set of changes that we're seeing in the eye and in the back of the eye of the astronauts. That we actually don't really understand why. We think this idea of like the fluid shift that you get in microgravity from the lower part to the upper body has something to do with it. There are other hypotheses, and probably it's a little bit of everything. And maybe the pressure in the back of the eye is pushing it from the back, creating all those tissues. People just can't see very well. They have edemas, they have things similar to glaucoma, a bunch of different things that we still don't understand. So that's an issue. And then finally, which I think is one of the most important issues that we recently found, is that we found blood flow going in the wrong direction in the internal jugular vein. You may not know what the internal jugular vein is, but basically it's the pathway of the blood going down from the head to the heart. Like you need to go down. That's the right direction.
If anything happens to the jugular vein, that's like a lethal injury.
Right. So it has been shown that the flow is not by any means straight down, like maybe a little bit stagnant in there, and some people more, some people less, and all these things. But worse than that, we found a thrombo in one of the astronauts. So now we are not talking about your vision can change and you're way to Mars and you can use these glasses for now. No, like now you have a thrombo, like tomorrow it can dislodge and you're dead. Like tomorrow. Like now we're talking, right? So this was a wake-up call because we thought we knew this, like how all this was, and all these things, and no one ever, we missed this. Nobody knew this was happening, and it was a little bit a surprise as part of a research study that was looking for something else. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, wait a minute, that looks like a thrombo. Wait, and
So is their personal lives still? Do they take care of it medically?
yeah, so they the astronaut is back down and it's all fine, but they had to we have medication on board. Luckily they had some medication for something else from the past. So this person had to take it and personalize it a little bit to wait for more things to come. It was also a great example of telemedicine. We talk about telemedicine and all this. It was a great, at the end, everything was fine, right? But yeah, now we need to understand all those things. So for example, like flow in the internal jugular vein is one of the variables that I collect systematically now to understand this. So we created these dose response curves that I mentioned using skills, LVMP, and centrifugation is what we still need to cover. And these are just the variables that I showed you. For example, this is the area of the cross-sectional area of the internal jugular vein. So we can see that from this position to this position is increasing. And it is increasing in this particular way. Like I'm giving you quantitative thing. That's the first response.
So what are they gonna do? If you mind me asking me, what are they gonna do, like the scientists, what are they gonna do for an astronaut spaceflight to prevent thrombosis now that we made
That's a
it?
great question. I have some suggestions that this curve, I mean, I don't want to get into my suggestions, but this curve is showing that the more LVMP you follow, the less probability you have to get reversal flow, I guess. So the more LVMP that works, but at the same time, this is collected on Earth. It's not collected on true microgravity. So when you are lying supine, you still have your own body ready pushing into things. So is that gonna change? I don't know. So they want to go to space and collect.
They're gonna have to build a business park and take some thrombosis medication with them.
Right, and then the whole medication aspects and all that. But from the cardiovascular perspective, I would say these are the three main risks that they're studying. And now finally going to my pictures. Parabolic flight on pain. So this is the bimanual coordination study. We were lucky to get into these projects, and the idea was to look into bimanual coordination performance without going into any details. And this was really nice to see because NASA was using the same framework that I just put you in there. NASA wasn't interested necessarily on moon, Mars gravity, or moon gravity. He was interested in 0G, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 1G. So literally the dose response curve, right? So we can understand better what's happening. So we went into a parabolic flight. We have 4 different flights. One of them was at 0G, and the other one we had 10 parabolas for each, 0.25, 0.5. So we were able to get in there, and the setup was something like this. Someone was seated, the scientists were seated in the airplane with 4 sensors here, and the task was basically push the sensors following sonar patterns. Question?
Does your lab, do y'all work with heavier than gravity forces at all? Because during the, like, when the rockets like flying people into space, the astronauts go through more than 1 G of force. Y'all do that or no?
Yes, and in particular, if you look at what the parabolic flight profile looks like, this is one parabola. You know what the parabolic flight looks like, what you do. So you start at 1G. I'm sorry, this figure is not very big. You start at 1G, and it's like a roller coaster. So for like first, so like get 2Gs, almost 2Gs, 1.8, and then you start going up. The roller coaster, you're kind of like pushed down. So you get 1.8, so we were able to collect data on that. Then you get the microgravity portion, and then when you get down, you also get spaced down for another period of hypergravity. So we collect data in microgravity and hypergravity. So ground preparation, this is me and a couple of grad students in the lab who went to France for this was all in France. We had to put all the equipment of this place. We had 4 subjects at the time, at the same time. So we had these 4 different places, 4 different computers from different setups, all that. So this is they putting everything together in here with all the cables and EEGs and all the sensors, more working over here, computers, everything has to be really well attached, otherwise it just does. Okay. So this is us finally when we're done putting everything in the plates. And then these the guys from Novaspace, which is the company who runs this, they take the plates and then put them in the airplane, and that's when you attach them. These are they getting that in there. So this is the airplane 0G corporate Air 0G. This is the very first photo before getting into the airplane. I had been there before, although not in this particular airplane, because I think they changed recently. But for my students, that was the very first time they there. So that's what the airplane looks like without any experiments. We were lucky because we were 5 different investigators with projects, and the other 4 had issues with the equipment. They sent it, and then it got stuck in customs. So, they were having a really hard time, and they didn't even know they were going to make it. We decided to carry it with us, which was the best decision ever. So we were the only ones with the equipment. So we were just doing all this alone. This is why nobody is around. So that's what it looks like before anyone puts anything in there. The cockpit is really cool. It's one of the old airplanes, and this is actually necessary to be able to fly the maneuvers. Otherwise, with the new flight controls and automation and all that, you cannot.
You can't do something very good.
You can do something crazy like that. Just like you need 3 packs, like for each axis. So you need to be able to do all that manually and all that. So it has to be like an old thing. Now Novaspace put the seats for us. We have 2 rows of seats, and then the plates with the equipment were in front of them, and you can see the 2 sets of seats with each subject has its own little setup in front of them. And this is all the team from the Novaspace company. The way they do this is that we had a point of contact, which was Alexandra, seated over here, and then once we're done with the installation, she presents the setup to everyone else in the team. So everyone can check, to think about this, to think about that, it's safe, it's to safe. So from the safety perspective, making sure we don't miss anything. So this is all their teams, just like assessing our things, like this cable, put more Velcro here, Velcro there. This is another picture with all the other experiments. Like now we are like 3 or 4 or 5 days later. So everyone had the experiment in there. We were doing partial gravity too. So this experiment over here, you see these bars over there, like people needed to walk on them at different gravitational levels. That was really fun to see. Also in this experiment, this one was seated, the subject was seated. And then whenever it was time to go, the subject stand up, like walk, do the thing, go the other way, and then came back. I don't know what else they did. Like that little bit motion, some locomotion, like that. And that person was like full of IME and stuff to look at balance and that sort of thing. That wasn't our experiment for that. Question.
Was the plane flying during these experiments or was it on the ground?
Well, we flew later. Like this is all the ground preparations. Then all our team came. We were 9 people there, and we were the only team with a bunch of students in there. So I feel really proud about that. We definitely were the largest team, which also cost us a lot of money, but that's money what we invested for students to have this experience. All the other teams were like investigators. Hey, but you students, right? It's such an amazing experience for students, life changing, right? So this is us doing training. We needed to practice like 3, 2, 1. Like there's lots of timing. We all needed to push the button at the same time. There were like 3,000 things to do during the flights, and lots of training. These are the subjects, and we were already. We had to give them training on how to do the task, and then also collect baseline data for running the flights. That's what we're doing. These are the subjects doing the task. If you guys are interested, I will send you more details about the actual task. But here we're putting BMGs here in the triceps, but they were pushing. So we wanted to capture. Oh no. So all right, so flight day. This is our team. We were already putting like BMGs on the subject, so we didn't have to do it on flight. We had like 10 minutes to get everything from the seated position when we take off to the first parabola. We had like 15 minutes. So we had to like go super fast, try to do things even before getting up. All the people seated in the back, so the seats are. We are all with our flight too, so that was great. This is our gravity indicator with a patch of the project. That was cool. These are a couple of pictures. This is what our GUI looked like. You can see this is the forces, people just pushing on the sensors. A bunch of data that collected. And this is what the plane looks like in the middle. This is the ESA representing the European Space Agency person flying around, our subject doing the task. This was probably one of the breaks, so we're more than 1G, but still not floating in there. We're flying. So yeah, this is like the period of like lots of gravity. So we are all being pushed down in here. And that's the injection.
Pretty hard.
And now this, I can't remember, this is maybe 0.75 Gs, 0.5 Gs. So this is what the airplane looks like. People were like standing up, our subjects were like doing the task. These guys, the orange suit guys, are the safety guys, so they just make sure you don't fall on your head and like that. It's great. This is one of our students, Madison, doing pull-ups at 0.75 Gs. I mean, she's really strong already. But this is 0.75. These are, she was able to do. It's weird. I mean, you don't see that. Should have taken videos at another time, but this is the 0.75. All right. What else did we do? Like after landing, we also have post-flight data. So we kept collecting data pre, post, during, and we collect data, which was great. The other thing that happened in this project is that people typically get medication for this. You can choose if you want medication or not. This is me getting a lot of medication because even if I took 4 times, 4 times I was sick. So I'm saying one of those things, I'm gonna get through this no matter what. So I vomited this plane more than once, not this time. So that was good. Something that we did though is that knowing that people get medications may or may not get medication, our protocol actually tried to control for that. So half of our subjects had medication, half of our subjects didn't have medication. But we didn't know it was a double-blind study. The subjects didn't know, and we also didn't know who got medication. And then the question is, does medication matter in terms of the metrics that we have? We don't know yet. Yes. So pretty much everyone gets medication. Just like the very experienced flyers, probably they can take medication anymore. And they said that it's like 1 or 2 every flight, like 5%. Like I was at 5%. Like there's always 1 or 2 in each flight that kind of like gets a really bad time there, but it's not, medication works really well. As soon as get medication, and that was part of the drivers to use it in the study. We actually use a different medication that's the one that typically they use to fly, which also brought a lot of issues for them because it was a different drug. So we went with promethazine. Also that took, like, this whole parabolic flight is really great, but also it needed to be in front for 3 weeks, and I think I took the sound out of this, but it was also during my youngest 4th year anniversary. So this is like, they are like singing at home, happy birthday, I was in France. So again, another reality of science, right? And this parabolic flight campaign, we got the project in 2019. COVID and all that was postponed, and they got all these players and all these people and international collaborators. Like I cannot say, sorry, I cannot go, right? Whenever the flight happens. So again, reality of it too, this. And I'm gonna stop there because I know it's time. Let me see if there's something else just to end. To make sure, I guess I'll finish with this slide, which also explains a little bit more, like besides of all the physiology that you guys have seen, cardiovascular, sensory motor, metabolic cost, and things like that. These are like other things that I've been working on. I worked a little bit on spaces. We're not funding about this now, but looking into future spaces, how can we improve it? It's really hard to be in a space, given lots of injuries. So thinking about, things that to include in there. So we had a project spaces. Another project that we're working on is more of the intelligent agent type of thing. So get your own Siri to help you with analytics in the spacecraft. Like HAL, 2001. You guys are young, but that's so good HAL kind of thing. And we are testing the agent Hera, which is one of the analytics that NASA has and tips. And then I'm also working a lot on VR technology for various reasons. One of them with Canada, looking into head-ups to space for astronauts, for EVA, for spacesuits. And a couple of other applications more towards behavioral health. when you go to space to spend like this 1 year or something, right? Your real spacecraft, people are deprived of a lot of sensory stimuli, right? And one of the things that Kelly, Kelly said that after spending 1 year in space, he said, I wish I could smell the rain. And all of you recognize what the rain smell is, right? And you know, that kind of like sensory, like they don't smell anything. It's always very flat, right? Always the same thing. Same with food, with like colors, visual. So we are trying to use augmented VR environment to, you know, get people those experiences to see if they behavioral health. Also, we can use like kind of games to do exercise. You don't get boards to do exercise. That would be more. So it's a little bit like several applications.
I wanted to get some of Apple's headsets eventually,
The what?
the Apple mixed reality headsets, because those are super high definition and everything.
Maybe, yeah. Well, we have Renee here, and she's actually developing her own VR scenario. She's become like amazing at developing VR from scratch. So that's really good. Patty, we need to get another picture with Patty there. This is my lab, and also, you know, I'm also really proud of the diversity of my lab. I know diversity might be something controversial these days, especially in Texas, but still, I'm pretty proud of that. And what it comes down. Some of Reed has not made it already. Speak and Alice. You were in that lab meeting. Anyway, I'm gonna stop here. Sorry guys, I just went a little over. Happy to stick around if you guys have any questions. My husband is taking care of the kids today, so I have to ask permission. You guys will have him. I think he signed up for November. Danny said, so this is my husband. So whatever he talks about, like I was in French Guiana, also Rockers, you already know that. All right. Any questions, comments, thoughts, wishes?
You're working with Chatbot on the VR platform. Is that right?
Yeah.
So,
Are you working with him too? Are you?
well, I've been rocking into design. The guy there who's a part of the design team right now. Says they're in the process, you know, Chatbot checks in and says, hey guys, how you doing? Walks out and does his own thing. But it's really it sounds really interesting, and I've heard that they are supposed to have their platform up and running by this semester.
This space. You should meet this gentleman here. He has some top students. I was like, I hope you don't say anything too bad about him because he's listening. No, he's great. He's awesome, and but connect with him because we can help you.
Because I want to know if you need a marketing guy to see what's pitch to NASA about all this stuff. Because
NASA suits. That's what we're doing together.
we're doing NASA suit, y'all are doing NASA suits together.
It's a like a ongoing AR program for getting like students to help out with
I'm doing
AR prototyping. On board with that.
We were chatting. We need everything in space. We don't need only engineers. We need engineers, scientists, communicators, lawyers, business. Anything you do can be applied to space.
Need someone to translate the engineer jargon to common English, and so people will understand exactly what's being said.
Sign outside, that's like how to come here if you want to translate all of this engineering. I can speak for people. But thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, no worries. Sorry, I went a little later. Thank you for sticking
It
around.
was really, it was interesting. If they would come kick us out of the 3 by.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know where I am. I'm in HRBB. Holly works with me, so we can ask her. My email is online. I'm always available for you guys to chat about life or secret, whatever you want. Yeah. Happy to share my students.
Does anybody else have any questions over any of the other, or anything?
So the Halloween parties this Saturday.
Seven in this building.